Okie dokie. We can get down to business. Good afternoon and welcome to Senate Government Affairs. And if the secretary will please call the roll.
Vice Chair Orenshaw. Senator Gocochea.
Here.
Senator Neal. Senator Hansen.
Here.
Chair Don Daraloop.
Here, and please mark Senator Orenshaw and Senator Neal absent, excused. And we are going to do our bills out of order today. And so I believe we will start with Assembly Bill 336. And hopefully that works for you, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Apologies for the delay. And welcome to Senate Government Affairs, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I understand delays. We are at that time of session, so I truly understand. And good afternoon, Chair Don Daraloop and members of the Senate Government Affairs Committee. For the record, I am Danielle Monroe Moreno. I represent Assembly District 1. I'm here today to present for your consideration Assembly Bill 336, a measure that will provide peace officers with an opportunity to have an annual behavioral health care wellness visit. Joining me today by Zoom, and for them, I appreciate you getting on for the really super short notice, but I have Michelle Freeman, retired chief from the city of Las Vegas, who's currently a PhD student at UNLV, Mr. Joe Collins, who is Strategic Account Manager and Public Safety Liaison with Acadia Healthcare, who's also a retired Police Chief from Two Rivers Police Department, and Ms. Taran Hyatt, Area Director for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Assemblyman Tom Roberts is presenting another bill in another committee. He may be joining us as well as we get through this process, and we may have by telephone Officer Antonio Rodriguez, who is the Vice Chair of the Nevada State Hispanics Police Officers Association. Chair Don Daraloop, prior to having the honor of serving the families in Nevada here in this legislative body, I served for almost 30 years as a corrections officer, beginning my career with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office before joining the North Las Vegas Police Department Detention Center. It may sound strange to you, but I enjoyed my career and the opportunities that my position afforded me to interact with the community with compassion and understanding. The chance to have a positive impact in some of the darkest of circumstances. I often fought for fair and equitable working conditions for myself, my colleagues, and our civilian employees, while at all times ensuring that the safety and well-being of both the staff and the inmates in our care were taken care of. There is a saying that once an officer or part of the law enforcement family, you're always an officer. It just doesn't leave you. Many of the widely publicized events of 2020 caused me pain, deep pain. The scenes shared on social media and played over and over again on the nightly news hurt. I hurt as a Black woman, but I hurt as a mother. I hurt as a grandmother. But I also hurt as a retired law enforcement officer. Peace officers are our modern-day superheroes. They are the ones that run towards the danger when others are running away from it. While some are truly heroes, all of our officers are first and foremost people. Sometimes people forget that we're humans as well. We have all the stressors that life has to offer: family, health, financial, marital issues, but we balance that with the everyday rigor that we all battle with the addition of the work-related stressors of often seeing and experiencing the worst of the worst that society has to offer, encountering situations that for some are simply unimaginable. For most, the stress is easy, and you can compartmentalize it, adjust to it, and handle it. But for some others, the stress becomes overwhelming, and it can either become an internal battle that can erupt into violence on the job, in your home, or against oneself. Officers are the ones that give the help. they often do not ask for the help for themselves. I have personally witnessed the effects when the help is not received. During my initial hiring process, I had to complete an application, have a personal interview, a physical fitness test, and a psych evaluation. Annually, I had a physical exam to ensure that I could continue to be medically and physically fit to continue to do my job. But never was my emotional, mental health, and well-being discussed. Unless, of course, I was involved or there was an incident that exposed us to a negative incident on the job, which is, at most accounts, often too late. AB 336 is my attempt, as with my co-presenters, to continue helping the men and women that I worked with, that they worked with in our law enforcement family. An opportunity to have an annual conversation that just might save the life of an officer or a member of our community that officer is sworn to protect. Today, you'll hear testimony from current and retired law enforcement personnel, as well as behavioral health care professionals, as why this legislation is not just timely, but extremely necessary. This is not meant to be a tool for administrations to use against its staff, but it is a step in the right direction to help an officer, to save a life, and to help change the culture of our law enforcement agencies. The overwhelming benefits of AB 336 in police departments, correction centers, and all areas serviced by peace officers will not be seen overnight. It will take time. And with your permission, Madam Chair, I will turn the presentation over to former Chief, Ms. Michelle Freeman.
Thank you very much, Ms. Freeman. Welcome to Government Affairs. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Thank you again, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Freeman, and I recently retired after serving with the City of Las Vegas Department of Public Safety for over 28 and a half years. I was in a formal leadership position for over 2 decades, and the last almost 10 years, I had the privilege of serving as the chief. I've been a proud board member for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention since 2013, and I will be graduating this week with my Doctor of Public Policy degree, which focused on suicide awareness and prevention for law enforcement officers. In the department I worked for, 5 officers died by suicide. One of those officers sat next to me for my entire academy. I'm here today, actually sitting, with Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno and Assemblyman Tom Roberts, and the others you will hear testimony from in support of AB 336. My testimony is representative of myself. According to the AFSP, which is American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the 8th leading cause of death in the state of Nevada. This is not something that we want to be leading in. We know the information is underreported when it comes to suicide, primarily because of the stigma that surrounds it. In the United States, from 2016 to 2019, according to the Officer Down Memorial page, there were 704 officers who died in the line of duty, and according to Blue Health, officer suicides in the same time frame was 742. That's 38 more officers who died by suicide. Although this is nationwide information, and you may be asking why are we looking at nationwide information when we're talking in the state of Nevada, it's very important to recognize officers move from state to state, agency to agency, and when they do, they carry their trauma with them. Over my tenure, I've witnessed firsthand trauma and tragedy. I've received countless calls and office visits from employees asking me to help them because there was an officer in trouble. In one particular instance, I responded over the weekend after hours, not as their supervisor, but as a caring person to ensure that that officer could get the assistance that they needed. Officers are humans, just like we heard earlier from Assemblywoman, just like everyone else. The difference is they have personal lives, and then on that layer, On top of that layer, they have all that's exposed to them during their entire careers. When I first started, I was told to leave my baggage at the door, and my baggage was referred to as my personal life. Go to work, pick up my baggage on the way home. I'm here to tell you, compartmentalizing for your entire career is not only unrealistic, it's unhealthy. Why should you care? Officers' well-being and suicide affects everyone. It's a public health and safety concern. Whether it's a call for service or routine patrol, don't we all want our officers to be of healthy mind and body? Through my doctoral work, I conducted a very short survey. I'm very happy to announce that within 2 weeks of the short survey, there were 844 respondents. My goal, as I stated in the survey, is to prevent suicide and assist law enforcement officers who are struggling with their mental health and assist with changing our law enforcement culture by normalizing conversations around mental health and suicide prevention. It was important for all current and retired law enforcement officers in our state to have an opportunity to have their voices heard and their perspectives heard so we can learn more from them. Additionally, the goal was to create a baseline for further research because there really is nothing on this particular topic. The survey was shared with our executive director from the Nevada State Sheriffs and Chiefs Association, and then he distributed it to all Nevada sheriffs and chiefs. Then it was up to them to further disseminate. Two of the relevant questions that I want to share with you that's referencing this bill here today. One, do you know any law enforcement officer who's either thought about or attempted or died by suicide? 839 responded to that particular question, and the vast majority, more than 560, said either yes or maybe. The second question that I think is important for us to speak about, not verbatim, but it said, do you believe it is beneficial for us to have a confidential mental health component on an annual basis? So basically what the bill is talking about here today. 95% said maybe or yes. There were 840 out of 844 respondents to that particular question. Those respondents are here in our state. In 2019, two amendments of two statutes occurred. First, the allowance for compensation for officers if an injury or disease is caused by a stress-related injury. And the second one was in addition to mandatory education for peace officers, including mental health and officer well-being. So we're obviously seeing that suicide awareness, prevention, and officer well-being is important. Bill 336 allows us for a preventative annual wellness visit. It will help to normalize speaking to a mental health professional and about mental health and suicide prevention in general. Why would we want to wait until we are compensating officers if we could actually help them and prevent compensation and save lives? I'm here to tell you that a smile on a face doesn't mean an officer isn't suffering in silence. Typically in our profession, we learn our motto in the academy that nobody gets left behind. The officers who sat next to me during my academy died by suicide. He was left behind. I see in my head an empty chair. Empty chairs matter in my heart. I know together we can make a difference saving lives and ensuring our communities are as safe as possible. And this is the time to do it with this bill. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Chair and committee members, for considering this bill.
Thank you very much, Ms. Freeman. I appreciate your testimony. Assemblywoman?
There are two other presenters by Zoom.
I'm not sure who's going first, but go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, I can go. Hi, my name is Joe Collins, and currently I work as a strategic account manager for Acadia Healthcare in the public safety world. I help first responders, their families, their organizations every day navigate the behavioral health world. Prior to starting this role in 2020, I served for 35 years in law enforcement in Wisconsin, 21 of those years as a police chief in 2 different communities. During my tenure there, I also served for 10 years as the lead of the law enforcement death response team for the state of Wisconsin. And just to add with some of the numbers that Michelle was talking about, during those 10 years, we had 13 officers that died in the line of duty, and we had 27 suicides that we knew about. More than double the officers took their lives that were being killed feloniously by people within the communities. So another statement that was made is that this is, it's difficult. We wanted to have positive impacts in the darkest hours for other people. However, by having been involved in those dark hours, in those dark situations, that takes a toll. Trauma in people's lives cannot and does not leave the body or their systems unless it's properly and on purposely removed from the system. And without the proper tools, without the proper resources, and without an avenue to be able to understand and discuss these situations, it will stay in the body and become what's called a cumulative stress. There's two different types of stress situations that any particular officer may be involved in during their career. One would be a catastrophic situation where maybe they're involved in an officer-involved shooting, they're seriously injured. That type of trauma can impact the body immediately. Accumulated stress or compounded trauma is little stress, little situations that are continuously built upon during a career. And as Chief Freeman was saying before, those situations, when we're carrying baggage of other people around with us and told that we need to compartmentalize these things, she said that it's unrealistic and it's unhealthy. And I will tell you that it is impossible to be a normal human being within your agency, within your communities, and especially with your family when you have significant trauma that you don't have an avenue to be able to release from your body. The last 9 years that I was a police chief, we did have mandatory wellness visits within our organization. Our officers and staff had 45 minutes scheduled every year to meet with our mental health provider. They could talk about going fishing, or they could talk about true issues with what they had on the job. And what that meant is that they had the time scheduled while they were working that they could meet and have a normal and a discussion with a mental health provider, reducing the stigma of what it looks like when someone is in stress, when someone's suffering from trauma, and being able to have contact and interaction with a mental health provider to discuss what's normal, what's not normal, and give them the resources to be able to get that out of their body. Trauma is trauma. It embeds itself in your body. It will stay there and impact every part of your life unless you're given the resources, the tools, the knowledge to be able to get it out of your system. We're expecting our officers to do that every single day. However, we're not giving them the ability to remove them. I had the ability to go through the FBI National Academy back in 2009, and one of my professors, Sam Feemster, put it this way, is that we expect our officers to walk through the mud and come out clean on the other side. And that's from the day that they start, through their entire career, all the way through retirement. They're a valuable resource, and we put a significant amount of effort, time, and money into developing them into the type of officers that we want to represent our communities. This is simply an understanding that when we stress a system, when we stress people, we have to involve the proper resources in our investment so that they can properly serve our community and to be able to go home and be family members and be who that particular police officer or peace officer needs to be when they walk through the front door for their families. This is one avenue to be able to do that. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate supporting this bill. This is, in fact, the tip of the spear for peace officers across the country. You're leading the way in Nevada, and this will reflect what other organizations, other states are going to be able to look to as what they want to replicate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Collins. Appreciate your testimony. And
Our final presenter
Last-
is Ms. Taran Hyatt.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the committee, and thank you so much for your time and your service doing the work of the people during this pandemic. My name is Taran Hyatt. I serve as the area director for the Nevada chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And again, I'm here to testify in support of AB 336. Wish to thank Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno and Assemblyman Tom Roberts for their service and support of our law enforcement and first responders. Again, as mentioned, I won't repeat data that you've already heard, but we know that our law enforcement officers and first responders being on the front line, responding to our neighbors in crisis, have increased risk for suicidal behavior. Research has highlighted that link between PTSD and suicide among them. And as mentioned, we know that we lose more of our officers to suicide than in the line of duty. Research has also shown that members of law enforcement and first responders have these elevated risks for suicide because they often experience occupational hazards and stressors on the job, like the traumatic events that they witness, shift work, and these can in turn, increase that risk for suicidal behavior or exacerbate an existing condition that they may be struggling with. We also know that law enforcement officers and other first responders tend to work in a culture that discourages showing signs of weakness. And that contributes to a reluctance to seek help and disclose when they have a mental health concern or could be contemplating suicide. So we do owe it to them to support a change in this culture where it's a sign of strength to reach out and seek help, where officers are supported in their mental health just as they are in every other aspect of physical health. Suicide can be prevented, but it's through early detection of an officer who may be in crisis or struggling and connecting that officer and their family to resources and treatment services. I urge you to support AB 336 to ensure that all law enforcement departments have the knowledge and tools to effectively prevent officer suicide. By providing this mental health assessment, we're decreasing stigma. We're ensuring that there's equity between mental and physical health. There is no single cause for suicide, we know that. But by treating and preventing mental health conditions, addiction, addressing access to lethal means, and really empowering our law enforcement officers to live and thrive in their communities, we will save lives. Committee members, the Nevada chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is so grateful for your consideration, for working with your colleagues and other agencies to really address suicide rate amongst our law enforcement population. I just want to echo my gratitude for those on the call today, those who are listening in, who serve and protect our communities. I lost my father to suicide in 2002, and I will never forget the officer who held me in his arms as I ugly cried after finding my father from his suicide. And I was just one of the many people that he dealt with that day. He moved on from me to additional traumas, all in a day's work. I could share hundreds of stories from families that we've worked with throughout the years and my own experiences, but I am full of compassion for the trauma they witness daily to serve and protect our communities. It's incumbent upon us to create a culture that supports them. We all have a role to play in preventing suicide. With your support, passage of this legislation will affirm your state's commitment to improving the lives of Nevada's peace officers and their loved ones so that we can prevent the tragedy of suicide. Thank you again for your time. Thank you again for the efforts and service you provide, and I appreciate you listening to me share today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hyatt. I appreciate your testimony and just want you to know that I'm working on teen mental health this session. And so this touches not only all ages, but all walks of life and all professions. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll go back to Assemblywoman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Danielle Monroe Moreno for the record. The annual wellness visit will provide an opportunity to discuss and help address issues that an officer may be having in a safe, protected environment. These conversations should be confidential unless the officer displays a risk of harm to themselves or others. The goal is to have any emotional, behavioral, or mental health issues be treated in the same manner that a physical or medical health issue would be treated by our department. After talking with both the supporters of this legislation and some of the opposition, the effective date that was listed on the original bill was moved back to January 1st of 2023, giving posts the time to draft the regulations and also giving departments and local municipalities the time to budget to add this to their budget. As I said, this is personal for me. Current post standards for continuing education for our peace officers include racial profiling, mental health, the well-being of officers, implicit bias recognition, de-escalation, human trafficking, and firearms. AB 336, as I see it, is just the natural next step in addressing and promoting officer wellness. And with that, I hope to earn your support.
Thank you very much, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. We appreciate your testimony. And with that, we'll go to questions. Senator Gokachia, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll be glad when these masks are gone. Just briefly, what would it look like? I mean, what kind of provider would the officer go and visit in one of these, and how long? And then, of course, clearly, even though money isn't an issue, about how long would it take? And then clearly, if an issue surfaced in his behavior, then you could understand the treatment of it. So I was just curious what he'd walk in, he's going to do a wellness visit. What would that provider look like, or who would it be?
Thank you for the question. Danielle Monroe Moreno, I am not the behavioral health care specialist. However, in my conversations with behavioral health care professionals in our community and some who are joining us here on presentation, the visits can be anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour. And we talk to both marriage and family therapists, the agency could actually work with posts to draft what those regulations are and who they would make a contract with to have those. There is, Arcadia Health has a variety of behavioral health care specialists that could do that work, but posts would be working with their board to draft what those specific needs or providers would be. We didn't want to put that specifically in the bill because the number of departments in our state are vast. Some departments are huge, some are smaller, and they all have their own unique needs. So I felt the leaving it flexible would help better address the needs of those departments.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Hansen, any questions? I have one. I noticed in the language where it says standards for an annual behavioral wellness visit for peace officers, what are those standards already developed within mental health, or will they be being developed, and who will develop them?
Danielle Monroe Moreno on the record. Those standards would be developed with posts working with our mental health professionals within the community.
And then I'm assuming where it says emotional and mental health of a peace officer, preserving, that will be part of the wellness visit. So they'll just assess where they are mentally as well as physically when they have their physical.
Danielle Monroe Moreno for the record. During my research of this bill, I worked for departments that had annual physical assessments. I was part of the heart-lung. We found that not every police department in the state adheres to heart-lung, so therefore they do not have an annual physical. So this would be a conversation, not an assessment, so there wouldn't be a chart you'd have to adhere to, but a conversation giving that officer who may not on their own go and ask for help, because mental health in general in our society has a stigma attached to it, although it should not. If you are diagnosed with cancer or anything else, that stigma is not there, but with mental health it is. It's just having the conversation. And as Joe Collins was saying, you can go in and talk about fishing that first year, and the second year you may feel more comfortable opening up, and that third year you might really feel comfortable and tell them what's going on with you. So it's just giving that opportunity for officers to get the help they may not get on their own.
And finally, do officers, are they afforded, I know they have time off for sick days and things like that, but do they traditionally have a time off if they do enter into a traumatic situation?
Danielle Monroe Moreno, for the record. That varies by department, by the standard operating procedures and policies of each department. I can only tell you what happened at my department. For my annual physical, that was part of my regular work day. That was a day I was scheduled to go. I didn't have to take time off of my own books. If there was something that was found that I needed to take care of and the doctor said I needed to take care of, then my employer made sure that I had the time to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that, if you have no more testimony right now, we will go to support, opposition, and neutral. And is there anyone in the room that is in support? If you'll come forward.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Committee. Jamie Rodriguez, it's Jamierodriguez. I'm the Government Affairs Manager for Washoe County, and we want to thank the bill sponsor for working with us. We very much so support promoting mental wellness amongst our peace officers who see and experience things in their work professions that the rest of us will not ever have to see or deal and cannot really comprehend those experiences. I want to thank her for pushing back the implementation date. This gives us an opportunity to find and determine the funding and what these costs will actually be, so that we can be supportive of making this available to our employees. And just to follow up on your question, Madam Chairwoman, Washoe County does have peace officers, or the definition of peace officers is more than your generic kind of law enforcement. So we do have employees at Washoe County who fall under the definition of peace officers, but who are not subject to those annual physicals. So we do also appreciate the bill originally correlated the mental wellness check with those physicals, which would have been much more difficult for us because we would have had to do annual physicals for all those additional employees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no additional support within the room, broadcasting, would you go to the lines, please?
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you. If you would like to testify in support of AB 336, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 196, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dondero Loop and members of the committee. I'm Eric Spratley, S-P-R-A-T-L-E-Y, the Executive Director of the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association, and we're here in support of Assembly Bill 336, and we appreciate Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno bringing this bill in the amended version. I also want to personally thank her for her years of public service as a correctional officer, an often overlooked job that is vital to the public safety mission. Over the past few weeks, there's been some concern over what this bill might do negatively going forward, but I know what the next officer suicide will do. So anything we can do to try and stop that next suicide is something I personally support, and our organization has expressed support for at many of our membership meetings recently. We need to get our cops talking about the monsters that haunt them, and to do it in an environment that's safe to do so. I don't know what the perfect environment or timing of it is, and I've heard no one else providing solutions. So at least this bill is trying to propose the environment and the timing so that we try and help those people on the front line serving us night and day. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 938, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Senate Government Affairs Committee. For the record, my name is Ariel Edwards, ARIELLE-EDWARDS, Government Affairs Specialist with the City of North Las Vegas. The City of North Las Vegas is in support of Assembly Bill 336 and would like to thank the bill sponsors for their work on this much-needed measure. We urge the support and passage of Assembly Bill 336, and we thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 080. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, Jim Hoffman, Hoffman, representing Nevada Attorneys for Criminal Justice, as well as the Clark County and Washoe County Public Defenders. We support AB 336. Law enforcement have very stressful jobs, and we want them to have the tools they need to protect their own mental health. At the same time, ensuring that officers are dealing with any problems they have is a way to enhance public safety and avoid misconduct. AB 336 is good for both police and for the broader community, and so we support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller 1.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is Chuck Callaway, Callaway, representing the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I, on the Assembly side, had been neutral on my position to this bill, but I'm happy to say that after hearing that the implementation date will be pushed back, potentially through an amendment, I'm coming in today to support. On the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, we definitely support the intent of this bill, and we support wellness for our officers. The only reason that I was neutral in the Assembly was because of the logistics that need to be worked out, but I'm here today in support. So thank you, and thank Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you very much, Mr. Callaway. Next caller, please.
If you've recently just joined us, we are currently in support of AB 336. If you'd like to testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. May we move to opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition of AB 336, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much, and we'll go to neutral.
To testify neutral on AB 336, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 211. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Joanna Jacob, JOANNA-JACOB, Government Affairs Manager for Clark County. Madam Chair, members of the committee, we are neutral on the measure today. We want to thank Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno for her work with us on the bill. We had concerns with the original language, just like Washoe County. We also have peace officers who are not required to take an annual physical exam, so thank you for decoupling that requirement. It is an important public policy goal to make sure that our first responders have the tools that they need to deal with the stresses of their job, and it is something that Clark County supports. We appreciate the additional time that we have in order to plan for how to implement this bill. We had some questions that were asked today in the hearing about the standards for the providers. Sometimes we do see some challenges in Southern Nevada with finding providers for this type of work for our employees, but we are heartened by the conversations we've had with Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno so far, and we will be participating in the regulatory process on this so that we can figure out how best to implement this for our employees. We also want to respect the privacy of our employees, and so we are hoping that we can also address the confidentiality of the results in the regulatory process. And I think that this is. There are some very important public policy goals behind this legislation. We are neutral and in support of the Assemblywoman in this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Chair, you have no more callers neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. Assemblywoman, do you have any closing comments? Okay, then thank you very much, all of you, for a presentation of Assembly Bill 336. And with that, Speaker, you win the award for patience. We'll go to Assembly Bill 409. Thank you very much, sir, for waiting. I appreciate that. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we are certainly at that point in session where waiting is expected part of the deal. So happy to accommodate the committee and however they need to get their job done. For the record, my name is Jason Frierson, representing Assembly District 8, Speaker of the Nevada State Assembly. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I am happy today to present to you AB 409, which is an effort to modernize our hiring and recruitment practices for peace officers to better identify implicit bias. During the 2019 session, I sponsored AB 478 that required posts to expressly require several minimum training standards. One of those standards was implicit bias. Many of the training requirements, including implicit bias, were already in practice by various law enforcement agencies. AB 478 was an effort to ensure that regardless of who changes in local leadership, the intent of the legislature and the state was evident. Let us be clear. I think that we all have implicit bias. Every single one of us has implicit bias. However, implicit bias is largely unconscious and can influence our behaviors. For our law enforcement officers who are given a badge, a gun, authority, and discretion, and asked to operate in situations that are uncertain and stressful, it is imperative that officers are making the best possible decisions with limited information. In 2017, the Community-Oriented Policing Services Office under the U.S. Department of Justice issued a policy report that outlined hiring for the 21st century. This report notes that while the hiring process is and should be a method of recruiting and retaining candidates that embody the values of a particular agency, the hiring processes should also be used to identify potentially bad actors and those unfit to serve. While implicit bias training has become common in local law enforcement agencies and should continue to be an important training requirement, AB 409 is an effort to ensure we are hiring capable officers from the onset. I'll now walk through the provisions of the bill. Section 1 requires posts to establish minimum standards for the selection of peace officers that include requirements for evaluations to be conducted during the recruitment and selection of peace officers that must identify implicit bias on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, physical or mental disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression. In 2015, President Obama established a White House task force on 21st century policing. Co-chairs Lori Robinson and Chuck Ramsey were asked which topic they wished their task force had more time to review, and both agreed that it was recruitment. Co-chair Robinson recently wrote that American policing in the future will be shaped by the men and women now coming into police academies. Furthermore, in a recent article from the Police Chief magazine, it was stated that screening out potentially problematic personnel is not just good risk management, but it's also a cost-effective practice. I believe AB 409 is the appropriate next step to ensure we are hiring law enforcement officers our communities expect and deserve. I would like to note also that the concept behind AB 409 actually was raised with me from law enforcement officers who said we, like all of you, don't want problem officers, but once we hire them, then they are part of our agency, and then we have to work to deal with the behaviors that come as a result of that. If we look at this during the hiring process, we can weed out people that have issues before they're ever hired. And this is what members of the law enforcement community actually called and asked me to consider. So this is an effort not only to ensure that our law enforcement agencies deal with implicit bias at an early stage, but that we also help current law enforcement officers by catching bad actors and people that have issues that need to be dealt with at the screening process, and only hiring folks that are ready to serve the diverse state that Nevada has become. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Questions, Senator Gocochea or Senator Hansen? So I have a question, Speaker, where it talks about the requirements for evaluations to be conducted. Are those requirements already in place, or are they going to need to develop those?
For the record, Jason Frierson. Thank you, Madam Chair. To my knowledge, the components of AB 409 are not currently required. Some agencies may exercise some of this judgment in their hiring and screening process if something jumps out at them in some of the answers, but it's not currently required. And so our hope is that there's an emphasis on screening it out at the very beginning, again, so that the officers that we do have are not being forced to deal with folks that had an issue from the very beginning.
And I noticed also at the end, it says this section applies retroactively from and after March 22nd, 2021. So is that still the case, and since we're well past that now?
Thank you again for the record, Jason Frierson. My intent is to make sure that if there's someone who's currently in the queue, that they still have the ability to use the tools in this bill to screen those out. Of course, once folks are hired, it's another story, but we talk about the evaluations separately from, I think, the annual post-training, because I think it's that important at the outset before folks are hired.
Thank you very much. So basically, this takes effect immediately?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, with that being said, I think that answers my questions on that part. If you have no more comments, we'll go to support, opposition, and neutral, and broadcasting when you're, oh, excuse me, is there anybody in the room in support? Okay, not seeing anybody broadcasting. If we can go to support, please.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of AB 409, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 080. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, Jim Hoffman on behalf of Nevada Attorneys for Criminal Justice and the Clark County and Washoe County Public Defender's Offices. We support AB 409. Implicit bias is a persistent and underappreciated problem in all fields of life, including policing. Additionally, the FBI and others have reported a growing trend among white supremacists and others with explicit bias attempting to infiltrate police departments and other law enforcement agencies. Implicit bias screening is not just good for dealing with implicit bias, it can also be a way to identify these individuals, prevent them from getting into and misusing a position of power. We believe that AB 409 is a step in a positive direction, and so we support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
If you recently just joined us and you would like to testify in support of AB 409, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to opposition.
If you would like to testify in opposition of AB 409, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to neutral.
If you would like to testify neutral on AB 409, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, Speaker, no closing comments. Then with that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 409. And once again, Speaker, thank you for your patience and have a good day. With that, I am scouring the room here. I think we will jump to, if you don't mind, Assembly Bill 316, since Assemblyman O'Neill is here. And thank you very much as well for your patience. Please go ahead when you are ready.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try to make this presentation as expeditious as possible. I know we're short on time. But I do want to thank you, Chair, and all the committee members for allowing me here today to present AB 316, a bill relating to veterans' benefits and protections. I am P.K. O'Neill, representing Assembly District 40, which includes Carson City and a small part of the southeast end of Washoe County. A little bit of background on this bill. As you know, the United States Department of Veteran Affairs and the Nevada Department of Veteran Services provide an array of services that are free to veterans of the United States. There are many honest companies who will assist veterans to assist attaining their benefits at no charge. However, it was recently brought to my attention that some veterans are being taken advantage of when attempting to attain their VA benefits by entities who charge for their services without providing the veteran with proper notification. This bill, if enacted, will ensure that veterans are made aware that they may be responsible for fees if they utilize the services of certain entities in attaining their VA benefits. This bill does not intend to put good operators out of business. It only requires them to provide proper notification to veterans. And very quickly, going through the parts of the bill, AB 316 makes the following requirements concerning veterans' benefits with certain exceptions. Any person who advertises or promotes any event or other public gathering relating to benefits or entitlements for veterans must disclose certain information, including that the event is not associated with the United States Department of Veteran Affairs or the Department of Veteran Services, and that the veterans may qualify for benefits other than those discussed at the event. Any person who advertises or promotes services to represent or assist veterans in matters relating to benefits or entitlements must disclose certain information regarding compensation and the availability of free services. Also, any person who provides services to obtain veterans' benefits in exchange for compensation must provide a written disclosure before entering into an agreement with the client or veteran for the provision of those services. Finally, the measure authorizes the Attorney General to collect a civil penalty of up to $10,000 for each violation of the provision of the bill. The bill specifies that such a violation constitutes consumer fraud and a victim may bring civil action also. With me today, I have Andy LePilbet here in the committee room to discuss some of the incidents and answer any questions you may have. Also, Tony Yarborough is on the phone, I think, either phone or Zoom, to also assist in bringing forth some of the issues that veterans have encountered with this. And with that, I thank you, Chair, and I will ask Andy to come forward first.
Welcome, and please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. I'm Andrew LePilbet, and I represent the combat wounded veterans in our state of the Purple Heart recipients, the 65,000 disabled American veterans in our state, and I am the current chair of the United Veterans Legislative Council, which is the central body for all our veterans group in the states, representing up to 250,000 veterans, and when you count their families, 500,000 Nevadans. And where we are on AB 316 is, if you went back to our last previous sessions, this room right now would be full with 50 or 100 veterans. And in the hallway would be another 50 or 100. Now, some of you that have been around have seen us when a bill's that important to us. but under our current COVID situation, we're here together in a small room with a few people. But if you'll visualize our past, you'll see that this room is full. Now, a lot of our veterans are carrying scars, both seen and unseen, in recent times. And usually when they finally reach out for help, most of us know about Agent Orange and how my age group all of a sudden have cancers they didn't know about 40 and 50 years later. So some of our older vets don't even know that we have so many veteran service officers. And thanks for the Department of Veteran Services, we continue to train veteran service officers. Because our young, we sent to many tours of duty, which as a nation, we have never performed like that before. Some of our National Guards have been deployed 5, 6 times. They don't know they have something wrong, they're so busy. And it comes up later. So what happens is our veterans see an ad on television or in the paper, or they get a flyer, and they think it's just like any other thing when they go find out what it is they need to fix, and they end up with a bill that they didn't know because it wasn't properly disclosed. This bill is absolutely an essential bill to protect our veterans who have cast their blood on the battlefields of the world. And I thank you for the opportunity to discuss this today.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for your service. Assemblyman, did you say there was somebody else on the line?
Tony Yarborough should, I'm not sure if he's Zoom or on the phone.
I think he's call in, I think.
Broadcasting, do we have Mr. Yarborough on the line?
I can call for him, Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Yarborough, if you are on the line, if you could please press *9 to take your place in the queue. And if you can go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself. There we go. Chair, you are now connected.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair Dondero Loop and committee. My name is Tony Yarborough, and that's TonyYarbrough. I represent nearly 9,000 members of the Veterans of Foreign Wars in the Department of Nevada. I also represent close to 500,000 members of the United Veterans Legislative Council as an officer and past chairman. UVLC is an organization of all of the veterans organizations throughout the state of Nevada. That includes all veterans, active duty military, National Guard, families, and advocates statewide. And of course, as Andy commented, if we were there, you'd see all the people seated behind us that would be there as well. I wanted to point out a couple of things that probably had not been discussed before. One of them, of course, you see on Nellis, we have a exhibit that kind of explains the detail of this, where we started. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to go beyond that just a little bit and discuss briefly about the predatory practice that includes those benefit payouts that in the last number that I saw exceeded $1 million for the state of Nevada. Anytime you've got a lot of money like that, you've always got somebody that's trying to put their hands on it when they're not necessarily entitled to it. But we have financial planners, which has not been talked about, who promise to qualify ineligible veterans by repositioning their assets with financial products, not always in the best interest of the veteran, and accurately represent that that's the only way to qualify for, say, a VA pension benefit. And they often tie that offer of a free claim assistance to their for-profit product. Another one is home care entities that offer free claims assistance as a ruse to lock veterans and their families into long-term contracts for subpar home care services. In some cases, the home care entity offers to file the claim for the veteran while fronting home health care costs and then charge the veterans when the VA claim is not approved. And we also have people who are very honest that are pre-filing consultants, and they do this in the correct way. But they also have some who attempt to avoid the law that prohibits charging veterans a fee for claims preparation by disguising their fee as a general information about federal benefits and then claiming that benefit claim was free, which they turn around and show it's not. And of course, then they have the post-filing contract management that involves the promise of file the benefit claim free of charge, then demands payment for questionable contract management fee on the back end to oversee future communications with the VA. Now, it's interesting to note that this bill will not stop illegal activity, or all of it anyway. It's going to slow things down because it's intended to be a deterrent. Accredited activity also has people who abuse the federal public law 109-461, which restricts how much they can actually charge for their services. The VA does have a charging schedule. But in any case, they still continue to overcharge the veterans and the clients that they deal with. One of the things that will happen, of course, this bill will not stop everything, but we know that this is the beginning, and this is one of the places where we put the red flag up and say, whoa, it's time to pay attention to what's going on. But what we intend to do going beyond this is we're going to make absolutely sure that, if there's someone that comes up and has an issue, we're going to start with a claim going to the Attorney General's office and filing for fraud. And the second side is we're going to file a formal VA notice of violation for disqualifying an agent, even though if that agent may have been an approved agent. If they're violating the law, they're violating the law. We have I heard stories today about 2 different incidents where people just had a bait and switch game that happened to them, and they are, of course, it happened months ago, almost a year ago, and I'm just now hearing about it. The more we publicize this, the more we get transparency in the advertising, the sooner that we're going to stop this very, very dangerous activity that's hurting and damaging veterans in their lives. With that, I would say thank you very much and appreciate you listening.
Thank you so much, sir, and I appreciate your service as well. Assemblyman.
With that, we're available for questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, with that, questions? Senator Hansen, you're awful quiet down there today. Senator Gokachia? Okay, well, with that, I have a question. So I noticed in the bill that almost, and it's at the first reprint, and almost the whole bill has got this amendment in it. Is that all clarifying language?
Yes, Madam Chair. Actually, we worked with several entities on refining the Veterans Affairs, the Nevada Veterans Affairs, several attorneys organizations that provide, and the VAs to refine the language from the initial print.
Okay. All right. That was my question. I just wanted to make sure. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, and I'm sorry we're short members today, we're all in and out and doing different things. So with that, we will go to public testimony for support, opposition, and neutral. And I don't know that I see anybody in the room. So with that, broadcasting, go ahead with support when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of AB 316, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of AB 316, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to opposition.
If you would like to testify in opposition of AB 316, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much, and we'll go to neutral.
If you would like to testify neutral on AB 316, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Closing comments, Assemblyman?
I told you we'd be quick. Thank you, Chair. Thank you,
You
committee
did a
members.
good job. Thank you very much. And once again, Mr. LaPilbet, thank you very much. And thank you for your service, and we appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll close the hearing on Assembly Bill 316. Okay, moving right along. I think Assemblywoman Kasama is on her way, but, as we speak. Assemblywoman, you walked in right at the right time. We're ready for you. Thank you very much, and welcome to Senate Government Affairs. We're short. It is not, and we're short. It is the committee, so go ahead. It's all right. And we're short a couple people today, but we'll listen with open ears. So please go ahead when you're ready.
I know you've had some exciting bills, but hopefully mine is not. So for the record, Assemblywoman Heidi Kasama in the vibrant District 2 in Las Vegas. So and we have somebody on Zoom, there she is, so ready to visit with us there. So this bill here relates to the recording of documents. Currently in statute, NRS 111.366 allows for electronic filing of documents. However, this would give the ability, if needed, for documents that have been signed electronically to be printed out to a paper copy, attach the example prescribed certificate certifying that the attached paper copy is true and correct for the recorder's office. And I would like to introduce, at this time, we have Sylvia Smith-Turek on the Zoom call with us here, and she's representing the Nevada Land Title Association, who has asked this bill to be moved forward that will help the industry. So Sylvia, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Senate Government Affairs. We're small but mighty, so go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, we are. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Loop and members of the Senate Government Affairs Committee. My name is Sylvia, Sylvia Smith, Smith, last name Turk, Turk. I am past president of the Nevada Land Title Association and currently a member of NLTA's Legislative Committee. First, on behalf of NLTA, we'd like to thank Assemblywoman Kasama for bringing forth this measure. The Nevada Legislature in 2017 passed remote online electronic notarization legislation. It provided an asset tool or an invaluable tool to assist in closing real estate transactions, as you can imagine, especially this past year during the pandemic. However, once we got into the working of the bill, we realized one provision had been missed. It's called papering out an electronically signed and notarized document. So the purpose of AB 325 is to add the ability to paper out an electronic document that has used a notary, that will use a notary to view and certify that the electronic signed document is now going to be the original unchanged document in paper format versus the electronic format. This bill also provides the county recorders the approval to record a correctly papered out document. I know you're all really wondering, what is papering out? Generally, it's a three-step process. An authorized person reviews the document on screen, prints the electronic document, including any notarizations that may have been applied to the document by an approved electronic or remote notary. The notary printing the document will then certify that that printout is now the true and correct, accurate copy of that document. The paper out document with that certification can then be submitted for recording with the county recorder's office. The certification by a notary is a formal confirmation that certain characteristics of that electronic document have not been changed, and the document has been reviewed in its electronic format by the person/notary printing and certifying that that paper copy is valid. Why is this necessary? Papering out provides a way to record an electronically signed and notarized document when a county may be unable to e-record a document, or if for some reason the county does not allow e-recording. Luckily, in Nevada, all of our counties do allow it. However, occasionally there are technical difficulties within the recorder's office. If we're unable to record an electronic document due to those downtime or systems not working, we need a mechanism that allows that document to be papered out and immediately recorded. Papering out may also be necessary when an electronically signed and notarized document needs to be countersigned by another signer who either doesn't have access to or chooses not to sign electronically. During the pandemic, all of our Nevada recorders were allowing e-recording. However, in the past year, Washoe County, and I'm not picking on them, but they're just the one that comes to mind, had some technical issues with e-recording that required our industry, the title industry, to have to physically go and record documents. The recorder's office was down for more than a day. When that happened, currently we would not have been able to paper out a true electronic document that might have been needed to close a real estate transaction. And ultimately, this would have created a hardship for a buyer, seller, or a borrower. That's why we're bringing this bill forward for your consideration. That concludes my testimony on AB 325. We respectfully ask that you pass this bill. We thank you for your time and your consideration. And we thank Assemblywoman Kasama for assisting the Nevada Land Title Association with bringing this important bill forward. With that, I am happy to answer any questions, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much. And I now know I chose the right profession as a teacher because I wouldn't have been able to paper out. So do you have any more comments, Assemblywoman?
I do not. If there's any questions.
Okay. Questions, Senator Gokachia? Senator Hansen? Well, I always have a question, so, and either one of you can answer, whoever wants to. I heard all your explanations. So is papering out is different, though, than like a digital signature? So when I get a digital signature and I go through and I have to just keep clicking and saying I'm okay, and it signs my signature for me, this is a different process, is that correct?
So, I'll start, and Sylvia, you can jump in if we need anything here. But when you're talking about going through on your...
State your name for the record, please.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Assemblywoman Kasama, District 2. So when you're going through and you're clicking it, you're absolutely right. You're signing a document electronically. But now we have to print it out. And when you print it out, your electronic signature will show up with like an authentication with the date and the timestamp. But then you have to take that is printed out and bring to the recorder's office. Normally, if you do just a paper, you have the notary stamp on it. But now we're just taking something printed out. We still have to have an affidavit sworn saying that it's true and correct, because we have to print out the electronic version and deliver it, so we have to have an affidavit on it.
Anything to add to that, Ms. Smith-Turk?
Yes, Sylvia Smith-Turk for the record. Just to kind of follow up with it, this bill in particular has to do with an electronically signed and notarized document. that allows us to be able to go and record it. So just to clarify, like if you had signed something through DocuSign, just to name a software platform, you could print that document, but you really couldn't go record it because for a document to be recorded, it has a notary requirement. So this is more kind of strictly geared toward remote online electronically signed notarized document. We just need the ability to print it, a notary to certify they've seen it on the screen, there were no changes to it, and that document now becomes the original, and we can take that down, and it allows the county recorder to record that paper document.
Thank you very much. I'll never be able to buy another house again without the Assemblywoman. Okay, I guess the other question I have is under section 2 where they've got the language there. Is that's standard language? Like is what everybody would use? Is that correct?
Sylvia Smith-Turk for the record. Section 2 is the portion of the bill where it has the language that a notary would use to certify that it's a true and correct copy of an electronic document.
But all notaries would use that, correct?
Sylvia Smith-Turk for the record, yes, ma'am, they would. Every notary who was going to certify an electronic document would use this language on the document, and then they would then sign it and use their seal if necessary.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that different counties didn't use something different or what have you. So, okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you for your time today. No other questions, and we know where you work, so we'll find you if we have them. Yep. With that, we'll go to support, opposition, and neutral, if you don't mind. Okay, thank you very much. Then I'll look in the room to see support, and if you are in support, please come forward and go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Elliot Mallon for the record, representing the Creditors' Rights Attorneys Association of Nevada, CRAN for short. First, I want to thank Assemblywoman Kasama for bringing the bill and the committee for hearing it today. I will be very brief. We support this bill. We believe it will be another tool to the toolbox to resolve creditor claims and release liens timely, and we really do appreciate it, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any additional support in the room? All right, with that, we'll go to support on the phone lines broadcasting. When you're ready, please.
Thank you, Chair. If you'd like to testify in support of AB 325, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 983, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits of 983, please press star 6 now to unmute yourself. Thank you. Please begin.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Teresa McKee, MCKEE, with Nevada Realtors. The Realtors appreciate Assemblywoman Kasama bringing AB 325 forward, and we are in full support of the bill. It is so important that closings happen on time and that the property is able to record and not be delayed from a technical glitch. Thank you for the opportunity to express our support.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to the next caller.
Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to opposition.
If you would like to testify in opposition of AB 325, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much, and I forgot to ask in the room if there was anybody in opposition. I don't see anybody. Thank you very much, and we'll go to neutral. I don't think I see anybody in the room, so we'll go straight to the phone lines.
If you would like to testify neutral on AB 325, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
All righty, well then, thank you very much. And any closing comments?
I just thank the committee and Senator for allowing me to present this, and I promised you it would be short and sweet, and I hope I kept my promise.
You sure did, and we like that. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much, and I'll close the hearing on Assembly Bill 325 and Assembly Bill 397. Ms. Rodriguez, thank you. Please join us.
Madam Chair, Jamie Rodriguez, we do actually have Lynn Goya, the Clark County Clerk, and Jan Galasini, the Washoe County Clerk, that will go through the bill. I'm just here for support.
Okay, thank you very much. Then opening the hearing on Assembly Bill 397. Welcome to Senate Government Affairs. And Ms. Goya, are you going to start?
I am.
Thank you. Go ahead, please, when you're ready.
Good morning, Chairman Dr. Loop, Vice Chairman Orenshaw, who is not here, and committee members. I'm Lynn Marie Goya, the Clark County Clerk. Thank you for hearing this bill on behalf of the Statewide Clerks Association. The bill primarily clarifies and simplifies language so that the legislatures of 10 can be more easily interpreted, and so the offices of the county clerks throughout the state may operate more efficiently and more consistently. AB 397 has no expected fiscal impact. I can take you through it's mostly a cleanup bill. I can go through each section if you want, or we can just give a really brief overview. It's basically a cleanup bill. There was some discrepancy in languages in different chapters, and so what we did is try to make them more consistent. And that's primarily the goal of this bill. And then Jan has another section that she wants to talk to. If you want me to go in more detail, I'm very happy to do that, Chairman.
What I'd like you to do is just kind of give us a quick overview of what we're actually cleaning up. And if you'd like to start there, or...
Sure. If you want to go through the bill, NRS 246-180 Section 1.2 adds to NRS 246-180 the 5-day deadline that already is called out in NRS 122-120, 3, and 4. NRS 246-190 Sections 2.2 provides consistent language between the chapters that regulate the clerk and clerk fees while clarifying the use of funds by simplifying the language to provide financial clarification on the types of acceptable expenditures related to the technology fee for this fund. There is no financial impact. NRS 19016 Sections 3.2 makes the language between 246 and 19 consistent regarding the use of the technology fund. NRS 122-040 Section 4.1 fixes language needed if 122-0615 is repealed, as Jan will talk about in a few minutes. NRS 122-0280 Section 5 recognizes that technology allows for the ability to display information about wedding chapels and venues in new ways. The amendment allows county clerks the option of offering digital brochures in lieu of printed brochures to reduce the impact on the environment and reduce the possibility of transferring germs. This only impacts Clark and Washoe counties. The next section will be presented by the Washoe County Clerk as it only pertains to Washoe County. At the conclusion, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And now turn it over to Janice Galasini.
Thank you very much, and go ahead, please, when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and committee. Thank you for hearing this bill today. My name is Jan Galasini. I am the Washoe County Clerk. Respecting your time, I will keep this brief. The last section of AB 397 repeals a section of the marriage chapter in NRS that provides
the ability for qualifying chapels to issue marriage licenses in the event that the Washoe County Clerk's office is not open every day of the year from 8 a.m. until midnight. The State Clerks Association and I believe the government has an obligation to ensure the integrity of the marriage process and must not pass off its responsibilities to the private sector. This is a cleanup bill for a 10-year-old section of the statute that has never been exercised. And currently there are only 2 qualifying chapels remaining in Washoe County, and they are not open every day of the year, 8 a.m. until midnight. So thank you for your time, and Lynn and I will be available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Questions, Senator Hansen and Senator Gochkachia? Okay, he's still digging through the bill, so I will ask a question. So how does this pertain to our other counties? We've heard from Clark and Washoe, but how does it pertain to any of our other counties?
Are you speaking on the repealed section?
Yes.
Jan Galassini, for the record, it is spelled out in statute right now. Washoe County is the only county in the state that is over 100,000 and under 700,000. So this is just pertaining to Washoe County.
Thank you very much. That's what I thought, but I wanted to double check and put it on the record. The other question I have is in section 2, subsection 2, where it says the money in the account must be used only in the office of the county clerk, including without limitation 2, and then it talks about the technology support. Is that funding enough for that technology support? You're on mute, Ms. Goya.
There we go.
There you are.
For the record.
There you are.
Clark gets, we are the biggest county by far, as you well know. We believe it's sufficient for our purposes. I do believe some of the smaller counties are still very much struggling to be able to afford the technology that their constituents want and expect. Since it's related to documents that are filed, it very much depends upon the volume of the documents that you are taking in.
Thank you. So
if Washoe is getting enough money with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions, Senator Hansen? Senator Gochkachia, please.
Just kind of off the wall, what does a marriage license cost you in Washoe County today then? Pre-technology.
Jan Galassini. Oh, I'm sorry. Jan Galassini, for the record, the current cost of a marriage license is $60. Okay. $25 of that goes to the domestic violence fund. $21 goes to the clerk. $5 goes to our technology fund. So, and we issue approximately 7,000 licenses a year. So it's not a huge fund, but I know it's better in Washoe than it is in the 15 other smaller counties.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And is that the same in Clark County?
This is Lynn Goya, County, for the record. No, a few years ago, we were able to add $14 to the marriage license to create a special wedding promotion fund, which generates about $1 million per year that we use to promote weddings in Clark County and the wedding industry. SB 177 will also add $25 to every marriage license in additional support for domestic violence prevention.
So what will that be in total?
It will be 102 after 177, if 177 is passed.
So currently it's 72, is that what you said?
It's 77 right now, and SB 177 will add $25 throughout the state, not just Clark. So ours would be $102, which would be one of the highest in the nation.
Okay, thank you very much. Senator Hansen? Senator Gocochea, second round? All righty. Well, with that being said, Ms. Rodriguez, do you have anything you need to add?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Jamie Rodriguez for the record. No, just want to state that Washoe County is very much in support of this bill. We've been looking for some cost savings for the county well before COVID, but this provision of NRS 1220615, one of the things we were not able to do is potentially close the office a little bit earlier and not have staff working those hours. And so this flexibility, we think, helps us ensure that we're able to be good stewards of our public funding and put us in parity with the rest of the state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, if there are no more comments, we will go to our public line. Is there anybody in the room in support? If not, we'll go to the public line. Broadcasting when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of AB 397, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of AB 397, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to opposition.
If you would like to testify in opposition of AB 397, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to neutral.
If you would like to testify neutral on AB 397, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll close public testimony. And Ms. Goya, Ms. Galassini, do you have any closing comments for us?
Thank you very much. We appreciate you hearing our bill.
Thank you, and thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us. Ms. Galassini, go ahead.
I was just going to reiterate, thank you for your time and attention to this bill. It is important to us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us today. All right, with that, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill, or Assembly Bill 397. And with that, I will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 410. And Mr. Daly, thank you for your patience. Thank you. Please join.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Skip Daly, and you're presenting Assembly Bill 410, and I represent the Laborers Union Local 169. I also have Alexis here at the AGC, who worked with this on this bill as we thought of the concept to make the corrections we're making, and then the AGC had an amendment on the Assembly side, which you see in the bill here today. So I'll go through that quickly. What we're trying to address in the bill is in Section 1, where we talk about construction manager as agent versus a construction manager at risk. So we don't really make any substantial changes or any really changes to the construction manager at risk process. We just add a criteria in order to be considered as a construction manager at risk. You have to have not had or entered into a contract with a public body to be a construction manager as agent within the previous, with the amendment, and it's a friendly amendment. I consider it'll be changed from 5 years to 4 years. The reason for that is because there's a conflict of interest when somebody works as a construction manager as agent and oversees what would otherwise potentially be a construction manager at risk, future competitor. So when you're a construction manager as agent, you're hired by the awarding body to help oversee the work that's being done by the construction manager at risk. So when you hire a construction manager at risk, and sorry for the terminology there, construction manager at risk, You hire them to do pre-construction services before they actually then negotiate a guaranteed maximum price to actually build what it is. So you come in with the concept, you say, hey, I need a building, this many stories, this many square feet, much office space, et cetera. You don't really have a design. So you select the contractor to be a construction manager at risk, to then enter in and start working on a design. They hire engineers, they have staff, and the awarding body will hire a construction manager as agent to work for them, so you become the representative of the public entity. And as that representative, you're then overseeing a contractor or a construction manager at risk, and you get to have what I call privileged information, or information that would otherwise not be public, about your competitor, about their design processes, how they schedule their work, how they go about constructability and value engineering and various things. So you learn intimate knowledge of a person that would be your competitor. So if you are both bidding at the same time to be a construction manager at risk, one gets selected and the other doesn't, and then the second one that didn't get selected then becomes the agent for the agency, are then going to be overseeing someone who's going to be their competitor the very next time, or potentially be their competitor. So this is going to eliminate that, say separate it. You're going to be a construction manager as agent or a construction manager at risk. Pick your lane. And if you want to go back to one or the other, then you have to wait that period of time before you can be considered as a construction manager at risk. And then the next section there was the selection process for a construction manager as agent was just, there was no criteria or anything there. Basically, it was a no bid contract, and we wanted to have some element of selection criteria. So at first we were just going to take it and make it a competitive bid. And then speaking with many of the people in the industry on how they do that, they felt that the qualification-based selection criteria would be better, and that was at the suggestion of the AGC. And we actually took the language, and Alexis can talk more about that, from an existing statute on how they select engineers at this particular time. We basically fitted into this and took that language to make it be something that public agencies should recognize, that they're used to, because that's how they use to pick engineering firms as it is. The rest of the bill, and I'll try to explain this, maybe your legal counsel can tell me if I'm explaining it wrong, is because we're amending a section that was in the Seymour bill, and Seymour is scheduled to be sunsetted. And I know there's another bill that Senator Brooks has to lift that sunset, but LCB won't draft a bill based on another bill potentially passing. So they also lifted the sunset provisions in this bill because they can't assume one is going to pass and one isn't. So the rest of the sections repeal the provisions that are in the statutes of Nevada, which is different than the NRS, that would go into effect if the sunset was not lifted, and repeals those sections. So it's counterintuitive. All of the language that would be repealed that you see in the rest of the bill is actually going to be retained because we repeal those sections that are sunsetting. And with that, if Alexis has some more to add, I'll be happy to answer questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Alexis Moderex with the Nevada Chapter Associated General Contractors, representing the commercial construction industry in Northern Nevada. We are happy to be here to present AB 410 with Mr. Daly. We are pleased to work with stakeholders on this bill, and we thank Assemblyman Flores for bringing it forward. On the Assembly side, as Mr. Daly discussed briefly, we did amend the bill to formalize the process by which a construction manager's agent can be selected by a public body. Currently, when a public agency enters into a contract for a professional service in preparation for construction, they use a qualification-based process as required in NRS 625.530. Section 2, Sub 2A of this bill requires public agencies to utilize the exact same process when selecting a professional service during construction projects or construction manager as agent. The process is well known to both public agency and the firms that pursue this work. Requiring qualification-based process will ensure the firm is being selected to act as construction manager as agent, have the necessary competence and experience to represent the public agency on any specific construction contract. Currently, these contracts are awarded through a no-bid process and can be upwards of $1 million. We believe formalizing the awarding of these contracts will make things more transparent and are in the best interest of the taxpayer. And the amendment that we are presenting today is to address some of the concerns of stakeholders who opposed the bill on the Assembly side. There is unease with the 5-year separation between acting as a construction manager as agent and a construction manager at risk. Parties agreed that a 48 months was adequate, so we're here today asking that Section 1, Sub 3 be amended to 4 years instead of 5.
Thank you very much. Questions? Senator Gocochea?
Yeah, I need to come back and just figure out exactly
Okay,
what
it's all right. I'll give
what
you,
we're
there's a
trying to do
lot.
here.
It's a lot, so
Okay, so technically, what we're talking about is you're going to have this construction manager. Then he would be like your clerk of the works, but then you would hire him on his credentials rather than a fee? I'm not understanding where you're trying to get and why.
And if I can, again, Skip Daly, representing the Labor's Union. So what we're trying to do is, like I said on the first part in the Section 1, is to say that we want to eliminate the potential conflict of interest and one entity, when they become the representative of the owner, being able to oversee a competitor and learn how he operates his business is something that you would never basically reveal to your competitor, et cetera. So we're saying if you're going to be hired in that position, that would take you out of being able to be a construction manager at risk for a period of 4 years with the amendment. That should eliminate the conflict. It should get contractors or engineers, because not only contractors do this, engineering firms become the representative for the agent for the awarding body. So that should eliminate that unfair advantage. Right? The other part about the way a construction manager as agent is currently selected without this change is there's no process. They can just say, I'm going to pick you and tell me what your price is, and you're selected. So there was no reason to no requirement to advertise, no reason to base it on price or any other qualification. They could pick who they wanted to. Oftentimes they would negotiate a price and various things, but they didn't have to allow anybody to come in if they didn't want to. They could just pick who they wanted. So we were going to make it originally, and the first draft of the bill said we're going to do a competitive bid process, and you have to advertise and do all this stuff. And what the industry came back and said, and I agree once we thought about it, is that we would be much better off for a professional service that we're picking to use the process that they're already familiar with and do a qualifications based. So the way it reads in there is that they would have to advertise for this work to be a construction manager's agent. They would set what the qualifications, what's your experience, what type of work have you done. They would give a weight to each one of those when they're in their advertisement. And then they would select who they're going to have based on that qualification. Fee is not a factor at that point. Once they've then selected the person, they would negotiate with that person to come up with the fee. If they can't agree on a price that they think is fair and reasonable, they could drop that person and go to the next bidder and negotiate with them for the fee.
So then it looks like you're this construction manager as agent, and is it very similar, Skip, to what we used to deal with when we had, what we called the clerk of the work, the guy that oversaw the job, wasn't really the manager, but this guy would have far more authority?
Not exactly. So the construction manager as agent, like I said, so you have some agencies, in Clark County and some Washoe County, they have a certain amount of expertise on their staff, DOT and some others. Some smaller agencies in Washoe and in Clark and then in the rural counties, well, let's just say they have a larger project. They don't have the on-staff expertise to say, hey, I've got this guy, and he's submitting this set of plans that we've asked him to in the pre-construction services as a construction manager, or even a design-build type situation. So they'll hire an expert to help them review the plans and say, yes, this is a sound design, this is a buildable product. They'll do design review, plan review, they'll do plan checks and those types of things. And they'll help that agency with their value engineering. So when you hire this construction manager as agent, is oftentimes and to assist the awarding body or the agency that's purchasing the job, make sure they have the level of expertise to properly evaluate the work. So that's a separation. I hope I answered your question there.
Yeah, I've got several of them, Skip, if I may. Just one more quick one. And I'm sitting here looking at the language here about the relative weight of 5% to the possession of a certificate of eligibility. Now, is that pertaining to this agent?
Yes, again, Skip Daly for the record. That would pertain to the construction manager as agent. So that's similar language that you see in, for instance, in just regular public works bidding, if you have the bidder preference that's issued by the contractors board and various things. So if there's a qualification-based criteria where someone gets the bidder preference because they have 60 months of paying taxes and in having an office in Nevada, that you would get that 5% preference. So if you're bidding a Nevada-based company versus an out-of-state company and you have that 5% preference, then that would be a factor when they're looking at.
But this construction manager agent is actually working for, would actually be hired by the agency that was going out to bid, right? Not the company.
Yeah, we would be hired by the awarding body or the owner of the project, yes.
And yet you would get a 5% bidder preference if you, where's this guy come from and where's he fit into the bidder preference?
Yeah, the owner or the county or whoever it might be would be able to, when they're evaluating the two bids, apply the 5% preference if a person qualified.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I hope that answered your question.
Thank you very much. Senator Hansen?
Honestly, I've got to study this a lot more. This is totally confusing to me. The terminologies, the purpose of it, I don't know. So at this point, I really don't have any questions. I've got to study this significantly more to feel comfortable at all with it. So thank you, Madam Chair, but at the moment, I'm still studying this darn thing.
And if I can, Madam Chair, Skip Daly again for the record, happy to answer any of your questions when you do come up with them, to hopefully make you feel comfortable. But like I say, we spent some time, we talked to as many people as we can in the industry. There is not 100%, but substantial agreement in the industry that this is beneficial both in the horizontal and the vertical arenas of the work in regard to Seymour.
Senator Gocochea, please.
And I will be brief. But now, could you have this construction manager agent, could he be working multiple projects for you, for an entity?
Yeah, well, again, Skip Daly for the record, yes, construction manager as agent could be hired by one agency and be hired by another agency at the same time, two different projects, or by the same agency. But you would have to go through the bidding process and various things each time.
Well, am I missing something? No, I'm thinking that the agency would be the jurisdiction that was bidding, i.e. a county or a city or that actually put the project out to bid. Are they not the one then that actually contracts and pays this construction management agent?
They are. So let me.
So I'm just going to, at Eureka County, I'm going to hire this construction manager agent. And then I've got 2 or 3 projects going. I've got him on the payroll. And can I use him on, because it says here, this doesn't apply if it's under 100,000. So I can have him working down in the park and doing a minor job and yet 2 highway overlays.
So Alexis Motorex with the AGC, for the record, it's per project, so a construction manager's agent is hired for a particular project, not to have on retainer, so to speak. So if Eureka County has 3 or 4 large projects where they need a construction manager's agent to help oversee, then it would be that bidding process for each of those projects, not for all of them combined. Does that clarify it?
Okay, so this agent is only involved in the bidding process, not really the construction or any of the project itself.
Yeah, so let me go back and see if I can give you an example again, Skip Daly for the record. So the school district puts out a project, and they're going to do it as a construction manager at risk. So they put out proposals into the deal for pre-construction services. So they put in their qualifications, they get shortlisted, then they come in for the interview, and they'll score them based on the criteria that they put in to pick them as a construction manager as agent, or at risk, excuse me. So then the construction manager at risk now is going to engage in what they call pre-construction services, so that's the first part of it. So now they're actually going to go and design the building or the roadway, the bridge, whatever it is, from scratch. They have a concept. I have to have a building this many stories, this many office buildings, square feet, entryway, and here's the footprint that we have to build it on, and here's our budget. Design me the best building that you can. So then they will go in and start to design those things. And then oftentimes, if it's a more complex project or it's bigger, that agency may not have the bandwidth or the staff or everybody to say, hey, I'm an expert on this type of construction, et cetera, et cetera. So they'll hire an agent. That would be the construction manager's agent. So they've selected the CMAR, they're starting to do their stuff. They say, I need some help. So they'll put out a separate proposal or a bid, an advertisement to hire an agent, a representative of the owner, to help them oversee and say, are these constructible? So they'll do constructability review, they'll do the plan checks.
So this agent would be working under the CMAR or with the CMAR?
They would be working for the awarding body as a representative of that agency to help the agency manage what the CMAR is bringing to them. And that's where the conflict comes in, because then they're seeing what that CMAR does on how they do their scheduling, how they do their design, who they build their team with, how they address problems. And that would be information that a competitor would never realize unless they were in that dual situation, which is what we're trying to correct.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll let us get to finance.
Thank you very much. So my question is, and I think the way I'm looking at this bill being printed, is that the text of the repealed sections, but I'm seeing that includes NSHE, Las Vegas Valley Water, State of Nevada. Can you address that piece?
Yeah, I will try again. Skip Daly for the record. So when the CMAR bill was added to statute, however many years ago, there was a sunset that was added to that. Actually, I think it was much later in Senator Spearman added it with the CMAR with some changes that we made, whatever her first session was. I'm trying to think. So in the statutes in Nevada, the way I understand it, and legal can tell me if it's different, they write up the changes and say, here's what it is today, and this is what it's going to be, and they include all of the new language until a certain date. Right? After that date, with the sunset, they have a whole new section of the statutes of Nevada written, repealing all of those sections. Right? So when we lift the sunset, the language that was in the section that's going to be kept, and we repeal the section that repeals all of the stuff. So we're repealing the section that was going to repeal, so all of that stuff stays. If that, it's counterintuitive, but that's the way I understand it's written. We're repealing the section of the statutes of Nevada that would repeal this language, which means we keep it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Clarkson. Would you go ahead?
Thank you. For the record, this is Heidi Clarkson with the Legal Division. So I agree with Mr. Daly that the way we draft is that when we have a prospective sunset in place, we show the different versions of the sections of law that are affected. So we have one section that is effective now, and then we show what the section of law will be once the sunset occurs. And since we're removing the sunset for the CMAR provisions, we need to eliminate the version of the section that would exist if the CMAR provisions went away. So we're not repealing, we're repealing a version of the section that would exist if the CMAR provisions expired. We're not repealing the entire section. There will still be a version of these sections. The current version that is effective right now will remain. We're just, in eliminating the sunset, we need to also make sure that the provision that would be effective if the sunset went into effect comes out of the statutes of Nevada.
Okay, I can pretend like I understand. Thank you very much for that explanation. Any other questions? I think everybody's in this processing mode, trying to pull it all together. Any additional comments from you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Skip Daly for the record. And if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to get a hold of me or the AGC. I know Mr. Madole would have been here, but he had a prior commitment today. But happy to talk to anybody when they have if they come up with a question. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And with that, we will go to public testimony, and not seeing anybody in the room. Broadcasting, would you check on the line see if we have anybody in support, please?
Absolutely, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of AB 410, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 530. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits of 530. There we go.
Larry Carroll, Carroll. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and distinguished members of the committee. I'm here on behalf of the Nevada chapter of the American Council of Engineering Companies in support of AB 410 as amended. I want to commend Mr. Daly for his overview. Specifically, ACEC Nevada is comprised of most of the engineering companies throughout North and Southern Nevada, and we're here to support that language that you've come up with through. We've been working together with the contractors, the owners, and all the stakeholders. Right now, the language as it's written, we fully support because a construction manager agent, and I think it's interesting to hear what that's been called over the years, but whether it's the owner's rep, construction manager, now it's called construction manager agent, but this is normally a service that's performed by a registered architect or a professional engineer, and they're selected on the basis of competence and qualifications. It's qualifications-based selection, QBS, rather than competitive bidding. The reason for this is that we act as an independent third party, independent of the contractor, the CMAR, and we work for the owner. So we make sure that the public's interest is being looked after during the course of construction and work hand in hand with not only the owner, but the CMAR contractor at the beginning of the project. The bill as amended ensures that the legislation conforms with both existing Nevada law, NRS 625.30, and federal law, which is the Brooks Act, which was passed back in the early 70s, which requires engineers, architects be selected on the basis of competence and qualifications. This language also mandates that engineers and architects are selected to protect the public's general welfare, safety, and health throughout the course of the project. And we fully support AGC's amendments and appreciate their help working through this and appreciate your time this afternoon. And I'd be happy to answer anything pertaining to the engineers. Can't speak for the architects, but we fully support this measure. And all of the agencies, the public agencies throughout the state right now normally have a process that they hire construction managers, agents, and that's through proposals, requests for proposals, requests for qualifications. Some agencies actually have pre-qualified lists where they rank the firms, and then for a particular project, they may call those firms in for interviews, and the firm that's deemed most highly qualified is called in for interviews and then negotiate a contract.
Thank you very
for the
much.
construction manager agent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carroll. Did you say your first name was Jerry?
Larry.
Larry.
Jerry, no. Larry.
Okay, Larry. I was trying to clarify that for the secretary. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time. All right, next caller, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
If you recently just joined us and you would like to testify in support of AB 410, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of AB 410, please press star 9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits of 836. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits of 836, please press star 6 now to unmute yourself. Thank you. Please begin.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, this is Jessica Ferrato, Jessica Ferrato, with Crowley and Ferrato Public Affairs, here today on behalf of Granite Construction. Granite is in support of AB 410 with the amendments included today. We like the provisions specifically that eliminate conflict of interest as highlighted by the presenters. I want to express our appreciation for all the work that has been done on this bill and urge your support on AB 410. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. Then we'll go to opposition.
If you would like to testify in opposition of AB 410, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 150. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Patty Charlton, Patty, last name Charlton, Charlton. I'm with the College of Southern Nevada, and I wanted to speak in opposition of AB 410, specifically regarding the limitation of a construction manager that may perform services as an agent for the limitation of a 4-year contract preceding that role. That's very limited, and in the respect of public funds and being mindful of efficiency and effectiveness, we respectfully speak in opposition of this bill today and look forward to working with the legislature and the host on this particular bill moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
If you recently just joined us, we are currently in opposition of AB 410. To testify in opposition, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to neutral.
If you'd like to testify neutral on AB 410, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 666, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Warren Hardy, representing the Urban Consortium, which is made up of the cities of Las Vegas, Henderson, Reno, and Sparks. I want to thank the sponsor of the bill for working with us to address our concerns. Once we received an understanding and the amendment that it's clear that this will not impact professional services like architecture services and those sorts of things, we are neutral on the bill. The overwhelming majority of construction manager as agents are these types of engineering firms, and that limitation would have been problematic. But the clarification that we received that this would not impact their ability it resolves our concerns. So the Urban Consortium is pleased to testify neutral on this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 848, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is David Dazlich, D-A-Z-L-I-C-H, Director of Government Affairs for the Vegas Chamber. I'd like to echo the comments made by my colleague Warren Hardy and thank the sponsor for working with the stakeholders on this bill. We appreciate the amendments that have been accepted and are here today in the neutral position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
If you would like to testify neutral on AB 410, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Daly, do you have any closing comments? Okay, no closing comments. Then I'll close the hearing on Assembly Bill 410. I'm sure you can look forward to some questions by committee members and those that aren't here as well. So thank you very much for your time today and your patience waiting through your turn. Appreciate that. All right, with that, we've successfully gone through all our bills, so that takes us to one last thing, and that is public comment. So broadcasting, when you're ready, we'll listen to public comment. Remember, you have 2 minutes, and you can talk about anything but the bills we've talked about today. So public comment, broadcasting when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to speak in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 358, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Selena LaRue Hatch, L-A space R-U-E. Hatch is H-A-T-C-H. I'm a teacher and member of NSEA and WEA, and I am calling with deep concerns about the new education funding plan. And I urge you to end the anti-union ending fund balance that allows districts to wall off up to 16.6% of their operating budget from collective bargaining. There's no legitimate reason this needs to be part of the funding plan and only ensures that educators across the state will no longer be able to collectively bargain for improvements to education or their profession. You have already pushed your educators past our limits this last year. Our workloads have doubled or even tripled, and we have risked our lives and our health to keep students learning. Sadly, at the same time, our voices have been continually silenced as we have been shut out of every major policy decision, and this body chose to slash our budgets to the bone. The fact that you want to add to this suffering with this absurd end fund requirement demonstrates a severe lack of care or understanding from our leaders. Clearly, our leaders do not understand that people can only be pushed so far before they break. If changes are not made to this plan, this state will face a teacher shortage, the likes of which we have never seen. However, this pain can be easily avoided. All it requires is a small change to the new funding formula. Remove the harmful language with walls off 16.6% of a district's budget and allow educators to continue to bargain in good faith without arbitrary and artificial restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
If you recently just joined us, we are currently taking public comment. If you would like to speak in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers at this time.
Thank you very much. Well, with that, I think we have finished this meeting. And I appreciate those that are here today. We'll have another one on Wednesday at 3:30. And I'm sure it will promise to be a tad longer because it'll probably include a work session. So I look forward to seeing all you, and thank you to those of you that are joining us virtually, and have a nice evening and see you on Wednesday. With that, this meeting's adjourned.